Folks, we're back. This is Steve Sansom, Jim Jonas with another episode of Veterans in Politics. Today we have Amy Wilson. She is the Las Vegas Justice of the Peace for Department number 7. But before we get to Judge Wilson, Jim, you have any rants?
Not really a rant, just more of a public service announcement. Like, this is the first show that we've done live since the presidential election. Look.
Yeah, last week was a little bit.
Right. Yeah. Whether you like or dislike whoever won, just relax. I mean, the system is set up to work. So just calm down. Because I've seen so many social media stuff, people losing their minds, just crying, like the whole country is going to go to hell. It's like, just calm down. We've lived through some bad presidents before. I think Trump will be a good president. If you disagree, that's fine. But just calm down. Here's just a thought. Wake up in the morning. Take a shower. Get cleaned up. Eat some breakfast. Go to work. Make sure you can pay your bills. You'll be good. Just let it go at that.
Is that?
Yeah, you don't have to be so super hardcore about everything. Like as a society, I think we've just gotten way too ultra sensitive and serious about stuff. But one more thing I want to say. I'm really glad that we have a judge on here today, because ultimately at the end of the day, judges, they're the ones that are going to ultimately decide what's right or wrong. The legislature or even the executive branch can make some of the stupidest decisions ever, but ultimately at the end of the day, it comes down to the judicial branch. And if they make the right call, they can override any other stupid stuff that happens. So,
well, I always tell people that judges' decisions impact your life immediately on a very personal level.
Yep, you're the one that taught me that.
Yeah. But, before we get to Judge Wilson, I just want, like you said, we weren't here last week because of...
Right. Yeah.
And I just want to just let folks know, and I want to congratulate all the candidates that ran in this election cycle. It was very grueling. And I wanted to especially congratulate all of our endorsed candidates that actually won. So I'm going to read off the list. I didn't have a chance to do it until now. Representative in Congress, District number 4, Congressman Stephen Horsford. State Senator, District number 1, Michelle Crawford. State Assembly, District number 4, Lisa Cole. Clark County Commission, District B, Commissioner Marilyn Kirkpatrick. Clark County Commission District D, Commissioner William McCurdy. District Court Judge, Family Division Department N, Carrie Maxey. Member State Board of Education, Tricia Braxton. City of Las Vegas Mayor, Shelley Berkeley. And we're going to see you on the 4th, Mayor Berkeley. City of Las Vegas Council, oh boy, hold on. City of Las Vegas Council... Ward number 6, Nevada Assembly, Chandra Summers Armstrong. City of North Las Vegas. That one lost by 9 votes, Jim. Robert Taylor Twix, because he was on my list.
Well, and that's the important thing too. So we lost by 6 votes. 9, sorry. So when Starbucks Anthony, our lieutenant governor, at one time he lost by 10 votes.
Yeah.
So that's why I always find it interesting when people go, my vote doesn't count. Really?
Your vote counts.
Your vote counts.
Justice of the Peace, Las Vegas Township, Department 4, Susan Bockham. Justice of the Peace, Las Vegas Township, Department 5, Judge Cynthia Dustin Cruz. Justice of the Peace, North Las Vegas Township, Department 2, Jonathan Cooper. And the President's Choice. Remember, I had some President's Choice. I did some personal endorsements, and I take very, very. I these mean a little bit more to me because it wasn't a panel that endorsed; it was me, right? And this didn't have anything to do with the panel's endorsement, by the way. Justice of the Peace, Las Vegas Township Department 2, Crystal Bradford. Henderson City Councilwoman, Ward number 2, Dr. Monica Larson. And these are candidates that actually won in the primary. City of Las Vegas Councilman, Ward number 1, Las Vegas Councilman Brian Knudsen. City of Las Vegas Councilman, Ward number 3, Las Vegas Councilwoman Olivia Diaz. City of Las Vegas Municipal Court Judge, Department 5, Rebecca Wolfson. Justice of the Peace of Boulder City Township, Christopher Tillman. So congratulations to all the candidates that won their race, and especially to our endorsed candidates. And we didn't have an opportunity to say that last week. And also to you too, Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's going to be an interesting 4 years, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Judge Wilson, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Tell us about it.
As a sitting judge, I have no comment on any of the elections or the outcomes. I will just say to every candidate or person that puts themselves out there to run for office, I feel you. It's quite a process to go through, and it is a lot of work. And I have a lot of respect for anyone who's willing to just to put themselves out into that arena, because it's a lot. So that's all I have to say about the elections.
Okay. Yeah. Tell us about you, man.
About me. Well, I'm Amy Wilson. I am currently the sitting judge in Las Vegas Justice Court, Department 7. I was elected 2 years ago in 2022. I was honored at that time to be endorsed by the Veterans in Politics. That was something that really was meaningful to me. I have so much gratitude and appreciation for our armed forces, for our veterans, those who are serving now. It is truly an honor to be endorsed by our veterans, and I 100% support our veterans. I was at the Veterans Day Parade a couple weeks ago. Were you there? I didn't see you.
I was not. I had surgery, and I was told to stay home.
Okay, well then that's good to follow your doctor's orders. But it's always just feels great to just stand there and just cheer for as everyone comes by. And just so grateful for their service.
You want to know something? That was the first Veterans Day Parade, whether we're a part of it or I was just walking up and down, that I missed in 20 years.
Yeah, I fully expected to see you there, and I watched. I didn't see you. I saw our dear friend, Vince, with the Purple Hearts. Okay. He's great. I saw him there, and several familiar faces. But I did not see you.
And I also missed the Marine Corps birthday party too, and the ball.
Oh, because of your surgery. Okay, well,
because they
next
all
year.
fall the 10th and the 11th. So.
It's all around Veterans Day. Yeah. Okay, well, next year you'll be back.
Yeah, I'll be back.
So. At any rate, I'm now, I can't believe it's been 2 years since I was elected. Time flies so fast.
Absolutely.
I mean, truly, when I think back over everything that's happened over the last couple of years, it's a lot, but it feels like literally it was just yesterday that I was elected. So, like I said, I'm sitting in Las Vegas Justice Court, and our department has a criminal docket. It's all domestic violence cases. So I see anything from a misdemeanor battery, a push, shove, slap, to murder, and everything in between you can imagine where there's a domestic relationship. So it's interesting if you think about it. In Las Vegas Justice Court, there are 16 judges, 16 departments. 2 of us, that's all we hear are domestic violence cases.
Who's the second?
Judge DeMonte. So the 2 of us have been hearing those for the last 2 years since we were elected.
Does that do anything to you psychologically, maybe?
Yes, I say this. It's when I tell people what I do, they're like, "Oh wow, how do you deal with that? That must be a lot." Mm-hmm. It is, and I will tell you by the end of Thursday, because we're 4 days, we're closed on Friday. So after 4 days of hearing, and on average, each of us have about 70 cases a day, sometimes more. And that's
all DV cases.
All DV cases. Think times 2 a day. Yeah.
Jesus.
So it's a big problem, and it is a problem that affects our entire community. What happens in our homes matters, and it trickles into our schools, and it trickles into the workplace, and it's something that is a big problem. And Sometimes, honestly, it feels so overwhelming. You think, gosh, what am I doing? Am I making any difference? But then there's the one. There's always the one. And when someone like gets through their classes or you're able to connect people with services and help someone, that's very rewarding. So I say I get tired because I do get tired, but I'm not tired of it. So I'm very grateful for our weekends. We have a few days to put it down, do other things, and then recharge the batteries and go back at it for Monday. In fact, I'm at a point now where we have new judges coming in, and I could elect to go to a different assignment. I've decided to stay in this assignment because I think it's so important to have consistency in this area, to have a judge who holds people accountable.
You start on time?
I start very close to on time. Our calendar's set for 8:30, and I am generally on the bench at 8:30, maybe 8:35 between there. I come watch me. I'm generally on the bench on time.
Oh, don't you worry.
So, yeah, come on down and check us out. But yes, I certainly am mindful of people's times, and I do not like it when people are waiting for me. Now, sometimes I'll get down to the courthouse, and for example, if I'm on search warrant duty and a warrant call comes, I have to take the warrant call if there's an issue to deal with.
By the way, search warrant duty.
Search warrant duty.
Because I remember we had the Valentine's Day ball.
I had to keep going in and out. Yes, so. There are 16 judges in justice court. One of us is always on search warrant duty, which means we have a phone that we answer 24/7 when officers call to have a search warrant reviewed.
What do you look for with search warrants?
Well, it depends what kind of case it is. So like, for example, a lot of them are for DUIs, because if someone is arrested on a DUI and refuses to give a blood or breath sample, then the officer has to get a warrant to do a forced blood draw. So in those, I'm looking to make sure that they had, reasonable suspicion to stop the person in the first place, and then probable cause to arrest them for the DUI, and make sure that they were informed of the requirement to give a sample and that they refused the sample. And if all that's there, then I sign the warrant. So, every case is different what they're looking for and what the facts are of the case.
What about searching a home?
Searching a home, well, there has to be probable cause. What they're looking for has to be related to the probable cause. Has to be reasonable. If they're looking for, something that isn't going to fit logically into a particular space, then you're not going to approve that space to be searched. It's really just dependent on each individual case.
Does the same apply for vehicles as well? Searching vehicles?
A vehicle search? Well, a vehicle can be searched. There's different kinds of searches. Like, for example, if someone's arrested, they will do an inventory search to log what's in the vehicle. If they come across contraband at that time, they'll stop, get a warrant sometimes. It's really hard to speak because every situation, it's the classic lawyer judge answer, I guess, is it depends on the facts. If it's a car that is been reported as stolen and they want to search it, then they got to get a warrant. So they have to present the facts to a judge and get a warrant. So anyway, one of us is always on call to answer those. So it's every 16 weeks.
Okay.
So we either 3 or 4 times a year. This year I've had warrant duty 3 times. Next year on the schedule, I have it 4 times.
What's the latest they've ever called you?
Oh, they call all night long. I have the most calls I've ever had. I was in July of 23. I'll never forget it. I literally was like, what is going on in the city? It's like people are, with the heat, are going crazy. It was unbelievable. That whole week of warrant duty was just, I think I had for the whole week, maybe 120 phone calls. But
then you get no sleep.
Very little.
And you got to take the bench the next morning.
If it's a work day, yes. So we start at 6 p.m. on a Thursday, and we're on until the next Thursday at 6 p.m. So over a whole week. So over the weekend, you can get some rest. But when it's the week nights before you go to court, those make for some long days. But one night I literally, tried to go to bed around maybe say 10ish, and that night between 10 and maybe 6, 7 in the morning, I had 12 phone calls.
Oh, boy.
So it's literally you take a call, you start falling asleep, you take another one. Sometimes you're on a call and another call comes in. I have an automatic message I send that just says, I'm on another warrant call. I'll call you right back.
Do they come over your house, or does everything on the phone?
No, everything is over the phone. So they'll either send an electronic warrant that we review. There's an app that we review it on. Well, they call, I'll swear them in. They'll send me that warrant to review on the electronically or in an email, or it'll be telephonic, and they'll literally read me the whole affidavit, and I'll listen to it and then grant it or
So
not.
let me ask you a quick question, Judge
Sure.
Wilson. What happened if the police officer lies to you?
What would happen if the police officer lies? Well, I hope that he would be held accountable.
Okay. And how would you go about doing that?
Well, if I was aware of the if I was aware that an officer was lying to me, which hasn't happened. I mean, not that I know of.
Correct.
I would certainly take that to report that to, I guess, the sergeant, whoever is overseeing that situation. Honestly, that hasn't happened.
I know of a case that it has happened. That's why I'm asking.
Where an officer lied to a judge to get a warrant.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I'm sure it has happened in the history of things, but in my experience, it hasn't, as far as I know.
Knock on wood. We don't got wood.
Right, as far as I know. I mean, so, you know, they call us, they raise their right hand, we swear them in, what they're telling me is true, and
Do you
I
do
take them
this
at their word.
Zoom, or do you do this?
It's
verbal?
telephone, over the phone.
Okay. How you know they're raising their right hand?
And they have someone with them as well. So like when they
okay,
get to the end of the
okay.
warrant, they'll say this warrant was
So there's a
witnessed
witness.
by
Okay,
Detective
gotcha,
so-and-so.
gotcha,
So
gotcha.
they have, right.
Okay.
So, and then, okay.
Judge, let me ask you this real quick, and thank you and I'm not going to ask a ton of questions because I really appreciate you like explaining stuff, because that's what the whole thing is about, because a lot of people don't understand how judges work and all that stuff. But the one question I did want to ask you is, being a judge seems like a very tough job, but you can make more money being an attorney. So why be a judge?
That's a good question. So for me personally, it's something that I have a passion for. I have practiced as an attorney for many years. I think you know that when we interviewed before, that I started out in California. I was a prosecutor in California. I also did some criminal defense there. I was in Arizona, in Maricopa County, was a prosecutor there as well. And while we were living in Arizona at that time, I became a judge pro tem, which is a fancy for substitute judge.
So hold on just one second, Judge.
Yeah.
So you have a bar license in Cali and Arizona
And Nevada.
and Nevada.
Yes.
So two of the toughest places New York is one of the.
Right. I've
toughest
heard,
ones,
I
yeah.
haven't taken New York, but
It's
yes,
a
I've
3.
taken 3 bar exams.
Yeah.
I've passed them all the first time I took them. And yes, Nevada and
So you're
California
smarty pants, aren't you?
are quite difficult.
Oh.
I am smart, and perhaps even more so, I'm a hard worker. I'm a hard worker. I studied very hard and was well prepared. I wasn't always the very tip-top student, but I'm a hard worker. So I think that's carried me a long way in
Absolutely.
life. Like you saw my campaign, I had a tough opponent. I worked very hard.
You did have a tough opponent.
Who I have nothing but respect for. Very nice person, but you know, I wasn't running with a big name and a lot of money, and I was running on my experience, what I felt I could bring to the position and the service to the community, and I worked really hard, and I'm proud of that.
Absolutely. And we
So-
congratulate you for that, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. So yes, for me personally, it's not about the money. So it's about this opportunity to serve the community. And I first realized I had a passion for this when I was a judge pro tem in Arizona. I really enjoyed being on the bench, interacting with people. I like to try to find solutions and help people. And I'm a fixer and a connector. And I'm also not a pushover. So I can also hold people accountable and toe the line when I need to.
You know how
So
to talk to people too.
I think
So you
so.
got very good communication skills.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely.
So I love it. It's not about the money. I could go into private practice and make a whole lot more money. Look, we have a comfortable income. We have great benefits. I'm very appreciative of it, but it is not about the money. So
When you make decisions, Judge, do you explain the reason how you arrived at that decision to the litigants or attorneys before you?
I very much certainly try to explain things. And I think my court staff will attest to that sometimes they think I say too much. They want to, move things along. Like, come on, Judge, you're taking too long. But it is important to me.
Right.
Even if I have said the same thing 10 times that day, it isn't to this person, and every person matters. And so I want to make sure each person is treated respectfully. They understand what's going on.
Okay.
They may not like my decision. They may not agree with my decision.
But it's fair.
But I want them to understand it. And hopefully, they may not even feel like it's fair, but at least they'll hear why, and I will give that explanation.
Have any of your decisions been appealed or contested or anything?
Oh, interesting question. I did recently rule on a motion that the attorney has filed a petition with district court to review it. Okay. So that's in the works. One? That's the only one I know of. Okay. I guess I would know because when they file the petition, I get a copy of it. Yes. So, yes, okay. As a sitting judge. Now, when I was at pro tem, I know there was an issue in small claims court. I sat in small claims court and covered for several times. And there was an issue that was appealed, and other hearing masters and pro tems had the same issue appealed. Mm-hmm. And the district court judge found ruled that we were wrong, but yet we were confident we were right. And I don't know if that issue's been resolved because I'm not there anymore. Right, yeah. So I can't remember what it was now. It was something in a small claims case about who had standing to bring a particular action in small claims. I think it had to do with a property management company versus the owner being able to bring that action. Right. So
you have bound cases over to district court before, have you?
Oh yes, daily.
And what do you look for when you do that?
Well, I will tell you that most of our felony cases, because all criminal cases start with us in justice court. Mm-hmm. The misdemeanors stay with us all the way through, and then the felonies go up to district court for trial or plea. So when a case is set for a preliminary hearing in justice court, I would say more often than not, they waive their right to a preliminary hearing. So I go over a canvas with them, make sure they understand that they have the right to the hearing, mm-hmm. what that hearing is, mm-hmm. and do they understand? Yes. You understand that if you give up your right to have this hearing, your case is going to go to district court. When you get there, you can enter this plea that's been discussed here on the record, or you can change your mind and have a trial in district court, but you're not coming back to justice court for a preliminary hearing. Once you give up the right, it's gone. And you understand, yes, and then has anyone forced you or threatened you to get you to do this? And then, so we go through that canvas, and then once they waive that right, the case is bound over to district court. Most of our cases go that way. Now, certainly, there are a lot of preliminary hearings that go forward, and a preliminary hearing is the burden's on the state to present evidence to a probable cause standard. Because the policy behind that is that felony charges are really serious. We do not want the government to be able to just willy-nilly charge people with felonies. So if someone is charged with a felony, they have the right to this preliminary hearing to make sure the state has probable cause to proceed on these charges. So it's not a high burden of proof like at trial or beyond a reasonable doubt. It's probable cause. And we literally have a Supreme Court decision from our state that has held that probable cause can be satisfied with slight or marginal evidence. So it's not an overwhelming showing like a trial. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for probable cause.
Is there any laws that you have to enforce, but you really just did not like it? You wanted to just throw your discretion in there?
Great question, Steve.
Maybe you didn't read it that way, counsel?
I don't think I can comment on that. You know there are boundaries here, things I can talk about and things I cannot. So my role, and I believe strongly in the separation of powers. Our government is set up a certain way. I respect that. My lane is the judiciary. We are not here to make the laws or to cheer for or against any law. Our job is to interpret the law and apply it, right?
I like that answer.
So that's my lane, and I will stay in it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jim?
No, that's perfect because that's kind of what I was thinking about too. Because that next question I was going to ask you, honestly, it's like, don't you get, and you don't have to answer this question, Judge, but don't you get frustrated sometimes with like, well, if the legislature If the law was a little bit different, it wouldn't even get to my level already. Like, can't this be taken care of at a lower level than by the time it gets to me? Because when you make a decision, that decision's final.
Well, I mean, there's always appellate rights and things like
Right, yeah.
decisions that I make can be taken up, or,
Right.
and certainly there's the legislative process that if a certain law isn't working the way perhaps the legislators intended it to work, there are lobbyists and advocates that and people can go and take that to the legislature. But again, that's not my lane.
Right.
So
So that's that. So that's interesting. I'm really glad you brought that up. That's one of the things that I get frustrated with. And this is something when we do our endorsement interviews. And obviously, I have an NDA, so I can't disclose the discussions we've had when we endorse people or not. But the number one thing that always gets brought up to me is like, is this judge going to legislate from the bench? Well, now, depending on what level of court you're on, we got NRS statutes that pretty much lock you into this is your sentencing guidelines. Does that frustrate you as a judge that, like, okay, this is a minimum sentence, maximum sentence, minimum fine, maximum fine? Like, does that frustrate you as a judge? Do you think you should have more leeway on the sentencing end of it anyway?
well, I'm not dealing with that. That what you're talking about, the terms, the prison terms, that if you are convicted of this, then it's a 2 to 5 or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
That's district court. Where I'm
Right.
at in justice court, I'm not imposing those kinds of sentences because they're felonies, right?
Okay.
So personally, I haven't experienced frustration over sentencing limitations in what I do. It's just, so I really can't speak to that because I haven't.
So
had that
basically,
experience.
you just do fines, though, right?
No,
Should've locked them up for 6 months.
Oh, yes. So
Right.
the misdemeanors, they can be sentenced to jail for up to 6 months. Most of my cases, when they enter a plea agreement in justice court, there's a suspended sentence. Most often it's, a battery, domestic violence misdemeanor. There are mandatory requirements under the law. The 6 months of classes, there's a fine and the community service that are required. And there's usually a suspended sentence. So if they don't do those things, then that time could be imposed. So I can think of maybe a handful of cases in the last 2 years where someone just entered a plea without any kind of negotiation, and I was on the court to impose the sentence.
Oh, okay.
So that doesn't happen very often. The parties have it worked out. They have their plea agreement. Now I can accept it or not, but I've never not accepted it. There's been a couple times where I maybe had some questions about it. So I called counsel up and I would say, whatever, I could see that there was this issue here. Was that addressed? One thing for me is when I see that there are children involved, I want to make sure that the parties are aware of that and that there's consideration there, so that we're, if parenting classes are appropriate, that we address the issues that are bringing people to the court. That's important to me, especially in justice court. We have a unique opportunity to address cases, hopefully before things become too serious. If someone's on their first misdemeanor and we can get them connected with services and counseling and resources, then hopefully they don't come back again, right? And it's a one-time situation. They get the help they need and off they go, and life is great for them instead of coming back and the recidivism that we see so often.
Do you have pro se litigants in your courtroom?
We do.
How do you
From
deal-
time to time, not a lot.
How do you deal with those?
Respectfully. Now, if someone says they want to represent themselves, they have the constitutional right to do that. And I have to make a finding that they are competent to do so. So there's a whole canvas that we have to go all over. It's called a Feretta waiver. It's several questions that I go over with them. What's the highest level of education you've achieved? Have you ever represented yourself before? Have you gone to law school? Do you know how to cross-examine a witness? How do you subpoena a witness? Do you know? So once I've found generally as I start going through those questions, and people start thinking, going, maybe not. So I'll say, look, are you sure you want to do this? I've got very competent attorneys right here who have passed the bar, who've been practicing in this city for years, who I can appoint to represent you. Are you sure you want to do this? And most often they will say, actually, I do want an attorney. But if we go through all of that and they still want to represent themselves, then off we go.
Thank you for that response. Because that's one of the biggest things that I've always gotten frustrated with was, like, I could just stand up there and say, yeah, I want to represent myself, but I don't.
You can. You have the right to.
But I have the right to, but the knowledge and like what filing dates and processes and all that stuff.
Sure, there's a lot. There's a lot to it. I think people don't realize that. Yeah. There's a reason we go to law school. There's a reason we take bar examinations. There's a reason we practice and we have experience, and that's important. So, I want people to have representation. Again, they don't have to. It's their choice. But because I want people's rights protected. So I think it's important to have representation. Yes.
When a litigant is before your court, you have their entire criminal history in front of you?
Not necessarily.
Really?
Right.
What does that mean, not necessarily?
What I have before me in my court file, when I open up the files, I call the case, is what is called an NPR risk assessment. Mm-hmm. So it's a Nevada pretrial risk assessment. So I look in that quick and it will show prior felony convictions, gross misdemeanor convictions, misdemeanors. But sometimes, for example, it will say under misdemeanors, maybe it'll say 5. But I have no idea what they are, what year they're from, where they happened. And sometimes they are listed out. And sometimes
shouldn't that be a little bit more detailed for you?
Well, of course, that would be ideal to have all the information. What I'm saying is that we don't always have all those details. And remember, these cases are coming to us pretty quick. So they're getting the information together as quickly as they can. Right. Now, the state, the DA, they have access to, they can look in the databases and get someone's entire criminal history. So, like, for example, I might look at a case and see that there's only one prior battery misdemeanor DV conviction. But the state will tell me, judge, like they're making a bail argument, for example, they might say, yeah, I see that he only has one conviction, but what you need to know is he's been arrested 10 times for domestic violence and that hasn't gone forward for whatever reason. And we all know domestic violence is very complex and there's a lot of reasons that cases get dismissed and why victims will, choose not to come to testify. So having that insight from the state is obviously helpful in making a decision with a fuller picture.
But you agree that an arrest and a conviction are two different?
100%.
Okay. And how far back would you go if there was a conviction? Let's say somebody was convicted of domestic violence 30 years ago. Would you hold that against them if they had a domestic violence before your court today?
Would I hold it against them? Mm-hmm. That's hard to say. It's hard. Answering hypotheticals makes me a little nervous. It would be information that would be considered. If someone has a very old conviction for whatever it is, and then they've, paid their debt to society and they've come out and they've gone forward and their life has been productive and crime-free for a decade, 2 decades, whatever it is, obviously that's going to factor in to whatever the decision is that I'm making.
Gotcha. So you're on the domestic violence.
Yes, I only have criminal domestic violence cases.
Do you have any other specialty courts besides that?
Oh, at Las Vegas Justice Court? Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So we have a veterans treatment court, all about, right, with Judge Letizia.
Do you preside over it?
No, Judge Letizia does. Okay. So she presides over that specialty court and does a great job. I'm not sure if you've been connected with her or not, or with that program, but I try to make it when she has graduations, but often I'm still in court doing my calendar.
I've been going to a lot of the muni graduations.
Oh, the municipal court has one as well, right? So we have the Veterans Treatment Court. We also have a drug treatment court. We have a community court that's connected with our community resource center. And that court is a specialty court that services the unhoused population. We call it quality of life types of crimes, where maybe it's sleeping on the street, trespass, those sort of nonviolent offenses. But again, trying to help connect people with resources and address the issues. Addiction's a big one, try to get them into treatment. Judge De La Garza presides over that court and does a phenomenal job with that one. I'd invite you to come to those specialty court graduations.
Invite me.
They're very emotional and heartfelt, and it's like, okay, we're doing something great here. You see these people, how their lives have changed, and they get up and they thank the judge and all the coordinators that they just can't believe how different their life is from having gone through the treatment court. So that's very rewarding.
Do you ask every litigant that's before your court if they are a veteran, or is that on any type of pre-intake forms? Or?
Yes, that comes to my attention by way of our financial affidavit. So when they come into court for their first appearance, they're given the affidavit to fill out if they want court-appointed counsel. And one of the questions on there is, are you a veteran?
What do you do when that pops up?
So I always look and see if it's checked yes. I let the attorneys know, Mr. Counsel, so you're all aware Mr. So-and-so is a veteran. And then whichever attorney I've appointed, I'll say, please have a conversation with Mr. So-and-so about his options as a veteran, because we do have the Veterans Treatment Court, which we have from our department referred people to. And it's ultimately up to them if they want to take advantage of going through that program or not. Quite frankly, often the offer on their case in our court, if they take that and go through the classes or whatever it is the state's offering, they'll get through that quicker than if they go through the Veterans Treatment Court, which is a much longer process. So some people don't want to commit to that and would rather just take the deal here and in our court and do the 13 weeks of anger management or the 6 months of classes, whatever it may be. But I absolutely look at that every time. And when I see that, I make sure that everyone's aware.
Do you get reoffenders in your courtroom?
Yes.
How do you handle those?
Well, I handle them the way I handle every case. I try to be respectful and fair and look at the facts and look at the law and make my decision based on that.
When's the last time you visit CCSD? Yeah, CCSD.
Yeah. The Clark County School District?
No, sorry.
CCDC.
CCDC.
Yeah.
All these acronyms really nice. FBI, CIA,
right.
SSA.
I'm really glad you asked me that, because after I was elected, I had been to the jail as an attorney to see clients a couple times, but I had never been on a tour of the jail. I wasn't aware of.
It's different when you're a judge, though.
Yes, I wasn't aware of the resources that are available there. And as I started my term on the bench, and when I was imposing suspended sentences, when it was that I felt was the right decision in certain cases, I was thinking about, they're going to be sitting in custody for whether it's 90 days, 126 months, whatever it may be. I'm like, is there a way to use that time productively? So I reached out to, there's some correctional officers at the jail. It was Officer Henry and Officer Iverson at the time that were running the resources and programming, I guess, department, whatever you call it over there. So they came.
They're running the yard.
They came over and they met with me and they explained to me all the different programs they have for people while they're in custody. And it was phenomenal to learn about. And then actually Judge Goody and myself went on a tour. They took us through the whole, it was probably 2 hours. So that was eye-opening. And I had learned that there's a women's program in one of their units there at the detention center, and there's a men's program over at the North Valley facility. But even every inmate can do packets they can ask for packets where they work through packets in their cell. And when they complete so many, they can actually earn time off of their sentence by doing these packets and participating in programming. So I think that's phenomenal. And I've been so mindful. When I impose a suspended sentence, I will tell the person, look, this probably doesn't feel like an opportunity right now, but it really is. You can go sit in jail for 6 months and do nothing and be in the same place you're at right now. Or you can take advantage of the programming and resources that are available to you. I hope that you'll do that. When you go back to the jail, please send in a kite and let them know you're interested. If you'd like, I will reach out to the correctional officers as well. Let them know you're going to be there and ask them to reach out to you. And we've been able to connect a lot of people with services. Now, what happens on the other side, I don't always know. But the day that Jessica and I went to tour the jail, they took us into that women's unit. They call it the SOAR, SOAR. It stands for something. I don't remember all the words. But and the women, there were a lot of women in there. And it's like a big open room with lots of bunks like cots. And then they have
the squad,
their programming space and all that. But it was a whole different energy in there than the rest of the jail. Very positive. The women were, working on their issues, and they have programming all day long. They have to get up at a certain time. They have chores to do. They have programming. They have their very structured days. And they also help connect them with services once they're going to leave. So they have a plan to hopefully be successful. Mm-hmm. And there was a young gal that I had imposed a sentence on, and she was actually in the program. And Officer Iverson or Henry called her up. And when I was there, and she said, you know who this is? And she said, that's my judge. And she was this young and kind of quiet, young gal. And I told her, I'm like, oh, how's it going? She's like, it's going really well. I said, I'm so proud of you. I'm so glad you took advantage of this opportunity. I hope that it will really help you out. And she said, she thanked me for, giving her this opportunity. And I'm like, I'm just so proud of you. Can I give you a hug? And she's like, yes. I gave her a hug, and she just started weeping. And that was a moment I'll never forget. I don't know where she is now. I hope that she's doing well, and that what she's learned there has helped her move forward in her life. But yes, I'm very much aware of that. I had an intern this summer, a couple interns that were coming and watching and shadowing in court. Okay. And we took them on a tour of the jail, with these officers as well. And that was, so yes, I have been to the jail quite a bit. And I think it's important. And I have to stay in my lane, but I wish there was more that we could do while people are in custody to help them be successful on the other side.
Any programs you'd like to see implemented in Justice Court that's not there?
In Justice Court? Mm-hmm. Yes. And well, we're starting. We have a mental health court that Judge Wood and Judge Goodman have started. Mm-hmm. And it's my understanding that they received a pretty sizable grant. And I know that we're hiring for the coordinators, because for these specialty courts to work, we have to have coordinators, the person that actually connects the defendant with the services. Mm-hmm. And so that is in the works, and that is desperately needed. Okay. So we're working on that. Yeah. What else?
Well, I just enjoy our time.
Well, thank you.
Jim, you have anything else for Judge Wilson?
Not a question. I just, more than anything, I just wanted to, for the viewers and listeners, and this is something that Steve Sanson educated me on years ago that I didn't pay attention to, but now, for the many years we've been friends, how important a legal process is. And people need to educate themselves on the legal process. And I just want to thank you, Judge, very much for being willing to, a lot of people don't realize, but you're sacrificing a lot of personal wealth by being a judge. Attorneys make a crap ton of money compared to judges. But you care so much about the legal process that you're willing to do that. And I greatly appreciate it. And I greatly appreciate you being so open and honest and trying to kind of talk through the legal process a little bit, because that's something that people need to start understanding their rights and how the legal process works. And a lot of people don't. So I'm hoping that this episode kind of educated people on exactly how that works.
I hope so. I am so honored to serve our community in this capacity. I genuinely feel like I'm doing what I am meant to do at this point in my life and in my career. I've practiced as an attorney in 3 different states. I've done civil work. I've done criminal work as an attorney. And now being on the bench, I feel like is the culmination of all of that, and such an incredible opportunity to serve our community. So I hope to be there for another term, maybe 2 more. We'll see. One at a time, though.
Well, let me ask you this question.
Sure.
2026 is a huge judicial year.
It is, in our district court.
All the seats are up for grabs.
Yes.
All the district court seats, from civil, criminal to family, all up. There are 2 Supreme Court seats. None of the appellate court seats are up for grabs yet. There are 2 Justice of the Peace seats in Las Vegas up for grabs, and there's one in North Las Vegas that's up for grabs as well. And this doesn't even include the Attorney General or the District Attorney seats, but there are 67 judge seats.
Wow.
Up for grabs.
That's going to be a long ballot.
So, and I know that there are some JPs probably looking to go up to district court, and and if their seat's not up for grab in 2026, I think there's two. It's Judge Sullivan and Judge Goodman is up in 2026. So everybody else, all the other JPs, they could run for a district court and not worry about losing their justice of the peace seat. Are you one of those judges?
I am not. As I sit here today, I am not. I get asked that all the time. When I was campaigning, I had that question a lot. A lot of people say, you have so much experience. Why are you running for justice court? Mm-hmm. We need good district court judges that have some civil experience and criminal. I've done both as an attorney, and I'm like, fair question. And let's be honest, I'm older than most of my running mates at the time, or the people that were also running. But it is just a number. But it was a fair question, and it's a fair question now. But as I sit here, truly, I love justice court. I have no intention or plan to run for district court in 26 or even in 2030. But I mean,
who knows? I'm
like, never say never, but where I sit now, I really love justice court. I love the opportunity that we have to really be involved and help people. And I not that you can't help people in district court, but it's different. It's different. So I feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be right now, especially in this space of domestic violence. You probably won't be surprised to know that it's not an assignment that the judges are fighting over. It's not for everyone. And right. I mean, no disrespect to my colleagues, because everyone takes their turn and does it. It is not for everyone. Right. And it's a lot. It's emotionally draining to listen to what we listen to. I mean, I had a preliminary hearing this year where the evidence was a woman was stabbed to death in bed by her husband with her 5-year-old daughter laying next to her. I had to look at pictures of a little girl in a bloody Disney princess nightgown with her mother had just been stabbed to death by her father. Like, that's a lot. So, and that's one case. So it's not for everyone, but it's important to be consistent, especially in this area of domestic violence, that we have consistency. So I have told my colleagues, I will tell anyone who will listen to me, that I feel so strongly and passionately about how important this area is that I am willing to stay in this assignment my entire term, if that's what needs to happen, to work with our criminal justice partners. You know, I'm in the lane of the court, but we also have the DAs, the public defenders, the shade tree, the Safe Nest, the community partners that are in this space. We all need to work together in our lane to really make a difference. It's a huge problem in Clark County and in Nevada. You know, it's one of the things we probably are up there in the top, 5 in the nation of the amount of domestic violence cases that we have here. I believe the number last year for 2023 is that we had 56 domestic violence homicides. That's not okay. That's not okay.
One is too many.
One is too many.
You know, I've been doing this show since 2005, and I understand that judges are on the down ballot. And,
yes.
And what we're trying to do with veterans in politics is trying to escalate them on the ballot so people would pay attention more to these judicial candidates and these judges, and know what these judges do on the bench, and not just when it's time for a re-election.
Right.
Know what they do. So we like to introduce the judges to the public on a regular basis so that the public can have a better understanding of what these judges do.
Absolutely.
And know who they are. So when it is time for a re-election or for a higher seat, they'll know, okay, yeah, that was right. Judge Wilson. She was on the Veterans in Politics show. She's very educated. She's very humble. She speaks well. She looks great. I mean, yeah, let's put her back up somewhere, So that's the purpose of these shows. And we also go after people that we don't think should be on the bench too. So it's a double-edged sword.
Right. It can be, right?
Yeah,
but I do appreciate that. It is important. I think, often the focus in campaign years is on the top of the ticket. And for sure, those are important races. Also, I think if we really take a step back and think about what happens in our daily life and in our community, those races, in my opinion, really impact our daily lives more than what's happening in DC quite often.
Absolutely.
Who are our judges? Who is our mayor? Who is on our county commission? Who is on our city council? Our state legislature? those are the people who are impacting our community on a daily basis. So thank you for putting a spotlight on those positions and putting information out there. You know, when we were campaigning, we hear all the time, oh, we never know who the judges are. We don't know who you are. Like, well, I think if you Google our name, like take a few, I mean, yes, someone's going to take some time to like Google our names. I think most of us have websites so you can learn about us, but it does take some work to do that. So organizations like yours and others that help share that information, it's great.
Like Jim Jonas says, where the rubber meets the road.
Where the rubber meets the road.
Well, it was absolutely great having you on, Judge Wilson.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to visit with you all.
Yeah, and you can come back anytime. You know, I would say probably every 6 months or so. Come and tell us how you're doing.
Alrighty.
But I know 25 is going to be a big year for us because we're going to start really talking to a lot of these judges.
Yes, all those district court races.
We're not waiting till 26. We're doing it in 25.
You have your work cut out for you, my friends, because there's going to be a lot of races.
Yes, plus all the constitutional seats and all the county seats are up too in 26. So it's going to be a real
exciting times.
Yeah, you thought this was an exciting year. Wait till 26.
Right. Yeah.
But thank you so much for being on the
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Judge.
it.
Appreciate it.
Jim, you have anything else to say?
No, I'm good.
You sure, Jim?
Just thank you.
Jim, you sure you don't have nothing else to say?
No, I don't have anything else.
What are you egging him on for?
No, I'm just messing with you.
I know.
He just likes to give me
Not
all
you.
the time.
You're not like that.
Folks, that's Amy Wilson, Las Vegas Justice of the Peace Department 7. And I forgot her department, so I wanted to make sure I had to look it up.
7.
But 7 from heaven.
That's right.
Yeah, heavenly 7.
Heavenly sent them.
But Judge Wilson, she's an extraordinary judge. And, go in her courtroom and visit with her. Go sit in there and court observe. And I tell everybody, if you want to know who your judges are, court observe. Go in there. It's a public place. It's open unless they have some type of really sealed case that it's not open to the public. But I don't believe in sealed cases anyways. But go in there and take a look at these judges and know who they are. And when you do vote for them, you know that you're voting from your heart, and you know that you're voting because you have a personal knowledge of these judges that are sitting on the bench that affects your life on a daily basis. This is Steve Sanson, Jim Jones for Veterans in Politics. Until next time.